In this video, we are discussing how to use math and statistics to predict uncertain NFL outcomes over the course of the season. If you missed our video last week, I'm going to go over the first version of our NFL prediction model, just a brief summary of what it was, how it worked, and the outcomes, basically what we predicted over what happened. And then following that, we're going to get into our new latest and greatest model, give out our predictions, show you how everything works, and that's going to be the video. So let's get right into it. So this was our first version of our NFL prediction model. And last week we talked about how we only used two discrete variables to feed it, which was points allowed and points scored. We made this fancy looking Poisson distribution table that shows us how many points we think the home team is going to score versus how many points we think the away team is going to score. It was a very elementary model, but simple yet powerful. So we had this data that we fed into it. Nothing changed from last week. It was just each team, the total points that they scored, the total points that they allowed, and then we assigned them an offensive strength rating and a defensive strength rating. We compared these values to the league averages, and then ended up comparing the two teams against each other to give us our predictions. So that's how we came up with that. So moving on, let's talk about the outcomes of what happened. So here, let me zoom in so you guys can see. Boom. So we have each of the games from week one. We have our predictions that we made last week, and we had the outcomes of those games. Now, to be fair, these two games happened before I made the actual video, but again, our prediction model still predicted that these two would be the winner, and lo and behold, they were the winner. Not saying that this prediction model is gold. It's not by any means. Nobody has a crystal ball and can see into the future. It's just a good baseline that we're going to continue to build off of and iterate upon. So last week for week one, we had, 12 out of 16 games correct, which is a very high 75% accuracy rating. We want to get that even higher. But as you'll see moving forward, the next model has many more inputs, which definitely complicates things. So without further ado, let's get right into our new latest and greatest model. Boom. Okay, so this is our new model. So what's different between this model and the last model? So one, we're still comparing points scored versus points allowed. That's kind of like the baseline that we built upon. But the difference is this model is taking in 5 different data points instead of 2. So the different data points that we have are, now we have the offensive strength rating at home and the offensive strength rating on the road, and the same respective values for defense. So for each team, we split them into 2 different strength categories. How good are they on the road and how good are they at home, which is going to influence obviously what we think is going to happen, because there is home field advantage, which is something that we calculated in this model. Another input that we have is QBR. So how good is the quarterback, the starting quarterback, and how much of an influence are they going to have on the game? So those are additional inputs that we have now in this model that we're going to keep and continue to iterate upon into the future. So let me just take it from the top and give you a brief overview of everything that we added into version 2 of our NFL game prediction model. It was a lot of work, I can't lie. So to start off, we have this raw data. Let me zoom in so you guys can see everything. So we have, instead of just total points scored and total points allowed, we have literally every single game played from the 2024 season, including the playoffs, and we also have the 2025 week 1 games. So we have a lot more data to use. And in this column, we have each of the starting quarterbacks who played, and we have the QBR of each quarterback for that associated game. So from there, from those values, we were able to come up with this quarterback map, which, let me zoom in so you guys can see. We have each of the starting quarterbacks that played in those games, and we averaged out their QBR rating. And if you don't know, let me just pull this up. QBR rating. And if you don't know, quarterback rating is something that's put out by ESPN, and it's basically a formula that they use based on 4 statistical factors, which is completion percentage, yards per attempt, touchdown percentage, and interception percentage. So QBR is something that we're going to steal from ESPN, and then we're going to use that in our own model. So that's what we're going to use. So these were the averages of the QBR's ratings right here for all the starting quarterbacks that got a QBR rating for those games done via ESPN. We have the Z-scores of those quarterbacks, which basically means how many standard deviations the quarterback is from the average. So anything above 1 means that quarterback is 1 standard deviation above the average, and minus is obviously the opposite. So for example, we have Brock Purdy. He's a 0.78, so he's 0.78, almost 1 standard deviation above average. Let's find an elite quarterback, Josh Allen. He's 1.28 standard deviations above the average. We gave them a rank, and we gave them an impact. How much are they going to impact the game? And this impact rating is what's going to actually affect our model. So obviously Josh Allen is an elite quarterback coming off an MVP season. Let's see who else we can give an example of. Lamar Jackson has a 1.45 Z-score. So he's 1.45 standard deviations above average, which means he's very, very good. This Kenny Pickett, that's a one-off. Kenny Pickett had like 1 game that he started in, but I still threw him in there just because I want to keep the information complete. So you have to keep that in mind, that some of these quarterbacks on this list didn't have enough data points to actually validate their ranking. But for the majority of the quarterbacks, they did. It's most of the QB ones that we're going to see on a week-to-week basis. Now, into this tab, it's not as pretty. It's not in the table, but I'm just going to go over what these values are. So we have each team. We have their weighted. This is another thing I forgot to mention. So with this model, all of our ratings for the teams are weighted, meaning, let me come here, meaning that more recent games are going to weigh more into the strength rating of the teams. So that basically means that last week's games are going to weigh more into this model versus last season's week 1 games, which is good, which is what we want, because recency matters in the NFL. Things change very, very quickly. If you watch the game on Thursday, today's Friday, you saw the Packers are looking like they're one of the top 3 teams in the NFL, just like that. So recency matters. So this prediction model is weighted. So all these ratings are weighted towards recency. So the more recent the games, the better they are currently, the more it's going to impact their score positively. And vice versa can be said for the negative, the inverse. So these are all their weighted scoring averages at home, their weighted scoring averages that they allow at home. So it's split into different things. You can see the complexity of this model has increased significantly from V1. Anyway, I'm not going to dive into all of that. We used the half-life formula to come up with the weighted sort of thing. And then from there, we were able to calculate their respective defensive and offensive ratings at home and on the road. Now, because our data has a lot more inputs, literally I did this manually. I didn't use any AI, which I probably should have. I didn't code it. I literally went line by line and typed all of this in. So if I can get a like just for that, I'd appreciate it. It took about 4, 5, 6 hours just to do this one sheet alone. But that's neither here nor there. I'm really, really happy I did it to make this model much more robust. What was I saying? So because we have all of this information, we were actually able to calculate a league home field advantage. So on average, every team has a home field advantage of around 11%, meaning that they play about 11% better at home on average league-wide. But because we have all of that information, this is literally each game, every single game played over last season and this season, and this is what I'm going to continue to update going into 2025. I was able to get the individual home field advantage ratings for each team. How good is each team at home versus on the road? So home field advantage is also something that's implemented into this model. And with that being said, that's basically it. So that's all of the updates, and it took me about 3-4 days to build this thing out, to insert all the information, to calculate all these values, and to do all of this work. So I'm hoping that this system, it's much more robust, layers of complexity. It should be more accurate, meaning that the spread should be smaller, but we're going to find out. So we're just going to go through for the games that are coming up tomorrow. Today's Saturday. We have Sunday coming up. And we're just going to go one by one, put in the matchups, and then see what our model says who's going to win. So you can just ignore this Broncos versus Browns, and you'll see exactly, just give you a quick sample of exactly how the model works. So we're just going to lock in our predictions. So I'm going to pull up the schedule here, and then we're going to insert the games. So let's just start off with the game that happened on Thursday. So we had the home team was the Packers. And I put this in alphabetical order so it's easier to find. We had the Packers. Their starting quarterback is Jordan Love. Jordan Love. You can see that he has a average quarterback rating of 67.5 against the Commanders. Boom. Their starting quarterback is Jaden Daniels. Boom. And he has an average quarterback rating of 63.5. Now, the home field advantage for the Packers is 10%. So all of these values that you're going to see I'm explaining are particular for that team. This is their offensive strength rating for the Packers, the defensive strength rating for the Packers. You have the same values for the Commanders. And then we have the Z-scores of the quarterbacks. All of these values are feeding in our prediction model to come up with this win percentage, which you can see here. It's pretty high. Let me zoom in. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's a little bit small. It's saying that the Packers have a 91% chance of winning this game. Now, for me, just like a fan, watching football and not having any of this information, I wouldn't think that it's a 91% chance that the Packers win. That seems like that doesn't seem very probable just coming out of your mouth without any statistics to back it. But that's what the numbers say. And I feel like I'm going to continue to refine this model because these spreads still seem a bit, I don't know, extreme, or maybe that's just the way the math computes. I don't know. So spread down here is the expected point spread between the teams. Our model is predicting a 9-point spread between the teams. And what's really interesting is the actual final outcome of this game was 27-18 with a spread of 9 points. So it's pretty cool. And this is just using that data. I didn't put in this week 2 game that already happened. This is only using week 1 and last season's information. So far, so good. So we're just going to go through and we're going to see what predictions our model says, and hopefully it's more accurate as time goes on. So Packers, 91% chance of winning that game. Let's move on. So the next matchup tomorrow, the first one of the day, is the Giants versus the Cowboys. Let me see who's playing at home because that matters. So we have the Giants at the Cowboys. So Cowboys at home. Pull them up. Cowboys with Dak Prescott. So you see we have to put in more information. Where's he at? D. Prescott versus the New York Giants. And the Giants are starting Russell Wilson. So Russell Wilson. And then for rookies, we're just going to have to come up with like the average. We're just going to give the rookies the average quarterback rating for like Cam Ward, for example, even though he already has a QBR and it wasn't very good for his first time playing. But anyway, Russell Wilson, let's find him. First, Russell Wilson. For that game, it's saying 54% chance that the Giants win. Now, do I believe that? Like me as a football fan, do I think that the Giants are going to beat the Cowboys? Like, I personally don't think that's going to happen. But we may be surprised. We just don't know. And that's the interesting part about having these numbers, right? During week 1, our model predicted that the Chargers were going to beat the Chiefs. Me, literally, as a Chiefs fan, I was like, there's no way. But that's what happened. So this one is one where it's like my instincts are going against the numbers. But there you have it. It's saying that the Giants have a 54% chance of winning this game with the spread of literally less than 1 point. So that's a super, super tight match. I guess this one is a tight contested matchup with a slight edge to the Giants. I wouldn't bet on this game if you're a sports bettor. Just move on to another one. Let's move on to the next matchup. We have the Steelers versus the Seahawks. Steelers with Justin Fields as their starting quarterback versus the Seahawks. Seahawks, and they have Sam Darnold now. So let's find him in our list. Sam Darnold. There we have an 83% probability that the Seahawks win that game. To me, that makes sense. Let's go. We is it always okay? So home is always on the bottom. All right. So we have the Titans. Now this one, we all know what's gonna happen. Titans versus the Rams. We have Cam Ward. He had one game and he played very, very poorly. You can see his QBR rating is a 7.3. That's where I want to cut him a little bit of slack. Cam Ward. So we have Titans versus the Rams. Rams have Matthew Stafford. Where's he at? Boom. No surprise, 98% chance that the Rams win that game. Up next, we got the Jets versus the Bills. Let's go Jets. Starting quarterback. Who's their starting quarterback? Wait, isn't their starting quarterback Justin Fields? Yeah, Justin Fields for the Jets. God damn it, now I need to figure out who's the starting quarterback. That's what's going on with this one. We have to figure out who's starting quarterback for what. Starting QB for the Jets. Who's the starting quarterback? Okay, Justin Fields. All right, Justin Fields for the Jets. We might have to go back and redo that other one. Justin Fields for the Jets, and then we have the Bills. Regardless of who's the starting quarterback, we know who's going to win this game. Bills. We got Josh Allen. Where's he at? Josh Allen. I don't know why it's saying 73% chance that the Bills win. That's probably more of 100% chance that the Bills win that game. So who's the starting quarterback for the Steelers? Starting QB for the Steelers. If it's not Justin Fields. Oh, Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Oops. Well, I don't think it's going to matter. I still think the Seahawks are going to win. If you want to argue and you think that Aaron Rodgers is going to save that game, I mean, go for it. Next up, we got the Dolphins versus the Patriots. Dolphins with Tua. Probably one of the more overrated players in my opinion. Tua versus Patriots. Patriots, they have... I'm going to double check this. Should be May. Right? Now, model is saying 95% chance that the Dolphins win this game. This model, with the added on complexity of this model, honestly, I just like, it's going against my own intuition. I think the Dolphins are really, really bad. I do. And I don't know how good the Patriots are. I know the Patriots are really bad as well. But a 95% chance that the Dolphins are going to win seems a bit high. So the next iteration of this model, I'm going to figure out a way to tighten these spreads and, I don't know, ask around and see what can I do to figure out exactly how to make this thing tighter, because these win percentages seem very, very high. But based on what our input is, 95% chance that the Dolphins win that one. Let's move on. Bengals versus the Jaguars. Bengals with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow versus the Jags with Trevor Lawrence. 98% chance that the Bengals win that game. That seems right. Saints versus the 49ers. Saints, I don't even know who their starting quarterback is. It honestly doesn't even matter. Saints versus the 49ers. We'll put in Brock Purdy. B. Purdy. And let me just look up the Saints QB for the sake of this video. Saints QB. Spencer Rattler. He's in our list. Again. Hot take. Hot take from the model. 58% chance that the Saints win against the 49ers with a tight spread of less than 2 points. If I'm a betting guy, which I'm not going to bet on, anything with a tight spread that doesn't match my intuition, I wouldn't bet on. Okay? So a game like this where the numbers are giving you a very, very tight spread, and I don't know, I guess both teams are not very good. Hey, if you're a 49ers fan, sorry, bro. They're saying the Saints are gonna, my prediction model saying the Saints gotcha this week. I don't know about that. Ravens versus the Browns. Bro, if my prediction model comes out with a hot take, we're just gonna rebuild it. Where we at? Lamar Jack right here versus the Browns. This should be no surprises. Browns. Who's their starting quarterback? It's not going to matter much. Browns have Joe Flacco. They have all that drama. I think Flacco's in our list. Yeah, he's in our list. Cool. Regardless of who's starting quarterback, 100% chance that the Ravens win that game. That seems about right. Lions versus the Bears. Lions. Jared Goff. Bears. We got C. Will. 100% chance that the Lions win that one. Do I think it's really 100%? No. I mean, keep in mind, nothing can see into the future. This is using arbitrary numbers. Nothing's wrong with it. It's just, you have to keep in mind, it's a professional sport. Upsets can happen. Do I think the Lions have the edge 100%? Do I think it's a 100% chance they win? No, especially now. Like this week, this season, we don't know how good the Lions are going to be. Based on week 1, they didn't seem very good, but hopefully they still have that DNA. So let's get into some more interesting matchups. We're going to kind of fast forward some of the less interesting ones in my opinion. So Broncos versus Browns. Broncos versus Colts, sorry. Colts, they have the guy from New York. Yeah, Daniel Jones now. And then we have Broncos with Bo Nix, with B Nix. So that's an interesting one. Like, a lot of these ones coming out of this model are interesting. So this one's saying that the Colts have a 69% chance of winning that game with a 3-point spread. That seems a little bit reasonable. Giving the Colts the edge is interesting. That must be from... Interesting. You know, that's just an interesting prediction. Not something that I would predict. So we'll just see. Like, we're just going to have to see how this week plays out. And I'm going to have to continue to iterate upon this model. Our week 1 with just the 2 statistics was 75% accurate. We'll see how accurate this one is. Panthers versus the Cardinals. Cardinals at home. Cardinals. We got K. Murr. Where's he at? K. Murr. Panthers. Panthers have B. Young. 100% chance that the Cardinals win that game with a 25% spread. Absolute blowout. I think that seems reasonable. Panthers aren't very good, especially when you look at the numbers, right? What we see with our eyes versus what the numbers give us is no surprise, right? B. Young is not a very good quarterback on paper, right? Visually, you're like, oh, he's a talented quarterback. He's good. He makes a couple good plays. But when you just look at the numbers, purely the statistics, it's not very favorable for him. So the numbers, like a qualitative approach versus a quantitative approach, are interesting because sometimes they're contradicting, as you can see in our V2 version of our model. So the most interesting matchup next week, interesting depending on who you are, Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes versus the Eagles with Jay Hurts. And this one is saying a 78% chance that the Eagles win that game with a 5-point spread, so less than a touchdown. That seems about right. Vikings versus the Falcons. Vikings QB is Jay McCarthy. Yeah. Where's he at? Jay McCarthy versus Falcons. Michael Penix Jr. 96% chance that the Vikings win that game. Next we got Texans versus Bucks. Texans with C. Stroud. Where's he at? Where's Bucks? With B. May. 98% chance the Bucks win that game. Seems about right. And last but not least, for week 2, we have the Raiders, which they got Geno Smith now. All right, Raiders with Geno Smith against the Chargers. With, who's their quarterback? Justin Herbert. Jay Herb. 100% chance that the Chargers win that game. Now, before we move on, I want to say that we've kind of already said it many times. All of these values need to be taken with a grain of salt, right? You need to combine a quantitative method with a qualitative method. Look at the numbers and see what it says, but also use your own instincts, use your own intuition, use your own knowledge if you're a person who's trying to predict outcomes for whatever reason. Me, I want to do it because I want to beat the sports books. So with that being said, there's going to be continuation on this model in particular because it took so much work to put into. I'm going to update the data as the week goes on, and hopefully over time it becomes more and more accurate. I think the next thing that I want to do to add on top of it is get some historical money lines, which is, if you're not a sports bettor, the money line is basically the main line of a win versus a loss, basically what we're trying to predict, and see what the sports books say versus what our model would say. And maybe over the week, I can do some back testing on this model against the history of it, and from there, refine it down and get this thing more accurate, right? This is V2, and it has a lot more data. It's a lot more complex than V1, and we'll basically see what the outcome is by the end of this week. I'm going to work on this every single day. Just building out this model took a lot of time, but it was definitely worth it. So anyway, if you enjoyed this video, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you watching and sticking through. We're going to continue to iterate on this continuously using math and statistics in our favor to predict outcomes. And like I said last week, if things go well this season, we'll try to do this for another sport into the next season and beyond, and just see where this journey takes us. Like the video if you enjoyed this. Subscribe if you want to see what's going to continue to happen. And thanks for watching. Take care. Enjoy football tomorrow.